So good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's neighborhood meeting. My name's Tyler Butler, and I'm a planner with the City of Barrie's Development Services Department. Now, the focus of tonight's meeting will be on the currently proposed application for a zoning bylaw amendment at 114 Blake Street. Please be aware we will be recording portions of this meeting tonight for the public record. The recording will be used for the purpose of garnering your input and to respond to inquiries and will be considered public information. Please also be aware that as a registered attendee tonight, your mailing or your email address will be added to the mailing list so that you can receive further information about this application as it progresses. Of course, tonight being the first introduction to an application through the neighborhood meeting. So should you have any questions regarding this collection, please feel free to contact the Development Services Department and we can tell you all about why we're collecting that and how it will be used if you are or have any concerns. And I would also like to let everyone know tonight that there are staff behind the scenes managing our technology and they're here to make sure that the meeting runs smoothly, to grant participants the opportunity to speak during our question and answer period and to assist with any questions in the chat. So please bear with us if we do have any issues tonight. There's quite a few attendees and I know that sometimes the bandwidth starts to get a little bit tight, but if you do have some connection issues, just let our technical team know and they'll do the best to get you back into the meeting so that you don't miss much. So oh, I see that there's in the chat there that some community members are having some troubles joining the meeting. So maybe if our technical team could talk to Chantel about that. So what is the intent of tonight's meeting? Well, tonight's intent is to provide members of the public with an opportunity to become familiar with the development application and the planning review process, and to also ask the applicant questions and provide any feedback on the application. As a reminder, anything heard by the applicant tonight, they will have to address in their planning justification report that gets submitted as part of a complete application. So what can you expect tonight during our neighborhood virtual meeting? Well, you're going to get a brief overview of the city's review process and the timing. You're going to get a presentation from the applicant's representative describing the proposal, and you're going to have an opportunity to ask questions of either the applicant or city staff and provide comments or identify any concerns that you have with the application. So that's what you can expect. So what not to expect? So in this case, you will not tonight hear a city staff recommendation on the application or a detailed analysis on the proposal. This occurs later in the process when we actually have a full and complete application submitted to the city to review. And you will not hear a debate tonight on the merits of this proposal between the city staff and the applicant. So with those minor kind of steps out of the way, and before we get into the presentation, I just wanted to quickly highlight the next steps in that application process. So this neighborhood meeting is established very early in the development process to ensure that local concerns are heard and incorporated or addressed through the city's review. After this meeting, we expect that the applicant will make a formal application and submission for this development project. Formal submissions do undergo a full technical review and must, and I repeat, must address the comments received from this neighborhood meeting and from the city's technical departments and external agencies and from members of the public more broadly. So, in conjunction with this process, there is a statutory public meeting that will be held on this application at Planning Committee sometime in the future. At the public meeting, applicants will present their application to council, answer questions, and provide an overview of and response to any issues and concerns identified during the neighborhood meeting tonight. So as part of a public meeting, members of the public also have an opportunity to provide verbal or written comment at that future public meeting. So tonight is very much an introduction to show you this and to hopefully help you formulate your pointed comments that at that public meeting are important to hear. So keeping that in mind, following that public meeting, staff will continue that technical review process and the applicants will make any necessary revisions to the development proposal. So once that review process has concluded, a staff recommendation report is brought forward to council for their consideration, and that is where the planning opinion is housed. So all comments received throughout this review process, so tonight, through the comments that we give, the public meeting, they are all have to be received and again, they have to be addressed and form part of staff's recommendation on the subject application. So what we hear tonight, you can rest assured it will be taken into consideration during staff's review of the application once that application is submitted. So a staff report for this particular application would not likely be brought forward to sometime to council in likely at the earliest in the fall or early 2023. So with that now out of the way, we can now move on to the applicant's presentation. And I'm really hoping that the folks here that we're having some technical difficulties in trying to enter our virtual meeting, hopefully have been in here now, because I see that we're up to 102 attendees. So hopefully everyone's here that needs to be here. But again, this portion of the meeting will be recorded. So this presentation that Darren Vella from Innovative Planning Solutions will give will be posted to the proposed developments page so that you guys can watch it again in the future. And so with that being said, we are focusing again tonight on the zoning bylaw amendment proposed at 114 Blake Street. The applicant's planner, as said, is Darren Vella from Innovative Planning Solutions, and this proposal will look to submit a zoning bylaw amendment to permit a 6-story residential building with 154 units. So I'm now going to hand this meeting over to Darren, who's going to first introduce himself and then share his presentation on the proposed development. Then again, after he's finished that presentation, that's where the public is going to have a chance to start asking questions and providing comment on that application. Again, we ask that you guys all just try and be as patient as possible with the technology that we're using tonight, and understanding that we're going to have to wait our turn to ask the question. And again, with those virtual hands going up, that's the way that we're going to do it. So Darren, I will let you take it away, and I will rejoin again once your presentation is concluded.
Okay, thanks, Tyler, and good evening, everyone. So as Tyler mentioned, my name is Darren Vella from Innovative Planning Solutions, and I'm here this evening on behalf of the applicant, which is 2055065 Ontario Inc., and they are the applicants for the proposed development. So further to what Tyler discussed today, the thing that I wanted to reiterate to everyone this evening is that we have this as a concept right now. There has been no formal application submitted. So this is really a conceptual idea as to how we feel the lands could be developed. There's a number of technical reports that the city is requiring from us that could ultimately significantly alter or change the proposal, depending on the conclusions of those technical reports. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done before a formal application can be submitted, and an actual formal statutory meeting would take place in front of a planning committee, which are your members of council. So I'm just going to share my screen, and I'll begin the presentation. So as everyone is aware, the property is municipally known as 114 Blake Street. And on this slide here, we have the subject property outlined in red. The property possesses a total area of 0.4 hectares or 1.1 acres. And the property possesses dual frontages on 2 city streets. So the first street with the longer frontage is Blake Street. Blake Street is identified as an arterial road in the City of Barrie official plan. So it is a higher order street. And the total frontage along Blake Street is 83.2 meters. The secondary frontage is along Rodney Street that flanks the property. And there is a total of 51.3 meters along Rodney Street. Currently, as I'm sure the majority of the people on this meeting this evening are aware, the property is currently vacant and used to be the site of the Lake Simcoe Motel. So in terms of neighborhood context, this slide identifies the variety of built forms that exist within the immediate neighborhood. So along Blake Street and other streets within walking distance to this property, there are single detached dwellings, there are townhouse dwellings, and there are also what's considered walk-up apartment buildings, as well as apartment buildings that range in height from 3 to 4 stories all the way up to 15 stories. And then further, just looking at a little bit more context. So the property is highlighted here in red. Hopefully people can see my cursor moving. And what this slide is intended to show is a walking distance from the subject property in both directions along Blake Street. And the walking circumference is a 5-meter walking distance and then a 10-meter walking distance. And as you can see here, what we've tried to do is highlight some of the more dense projects in this area, just to give people a sense of the overall character of the neighborhood and the variety of ranges of apartment style buildings within the neighborhood. From an official plan perspective, the area highlighted in yellow represents the residential designation in the city's official plan. That residential designation permits all different forms of residential uses, being low, medium, and high density residential uses. The proposed 6-story building based on the density of the site would be considered a high density residential building. And as Tyler mentioned, the proposed height is currently at 6 stories. From a zoning perspective, this property has a very unique zoning. So once again, this site is highlighted with a thick red line. And the lands are zoned residential multiple dwelling second density, SP. And the SP is a very specific zoning relating only to 114 Blake Street. And that specific zoning relates back to the previous Lake Simcoe Motel and only permits a motel as a use with a total maximum height of the main building at 4 meters. So the proposal that's been prepared by our architectural team, Architectural Unfolded, is for, as I mentioned, a 6-story apartment building. There would be a total of 154 residential units in a variety of 1- and 2-bedroom styles. The amenity space for the building is proposed indoor within an indoor amenity space, as well as along a rooftop amenity space that would be fronting along Blake Street towards the front of the property, gaining views of Lake Simcoe. And each of the units, the majority of the units, would also have private individual balconies. In terms of parking, there are 2 levels of parking. One parking level is fully underground, and then the second level is partially underground, for the most part underground, just working with the overall grading of the property as you move from Blake Street towards the rear. Access to the site would be achieved off of Rodney Street. So the access is from the rear of the property, where you would enter the development and gain access to the underground parking ramp, as well as there would be a surface parking drop-off area that would lead individuals, patrons, or residents into the lobby area. The building is stepped. There is stepping occurring within the building. And the first stepping of the building takes place on floor number 3. And then there is an additional stepping of the building on floor number 5 along the entire Blake Street frontage. The proposed height at this point is approximately 18 meters in height. And that would allow sufficient height for a 6-story building. This image here provides the first level of at-grade residential uses. The purpose of this image is just to identify how the streetscape along Blake is being animated with residential units. And as you're tiering up, as I mentioned previously, as you're moving up along Rodney Street, you can see that the rear portion of the first floor of this building, which actually ends up being underground, is part of the parking structure. So the rear of the building, based on the definition of height in the City of Barrie zoning bylaw, would ultimately be a lower distance, a lower height than compared to the front of the building, just by simply based on the overall topography of the site. Here's an elevation that was provided by Architecture Unfolded of the building. So this gives members that are on, or members of the public that are on the call this evening, a very, very high level idea as to the overall shape and built form and the overall building material usage. So you can see that there's a variety of different building materials that would be contemplated. All materials would be considered to be used with high-end finishes based on the fact that we want this to be a very quality sound building for the neighborhood. Along that vein, we've looked at other projects all across Barrie in the GTA, looking at different styles of architectural features. And these inspirational elevations really focused along the attributes that can be brought to a design, including a lot of different stepping. So you can see in the three images that are on this slide, different steppings to different style of buildings, all trying to find a way to blend in what's surrounding residential areas that would be lower density. So from an amendment perspective, the application that would be before the city, as I mentioned, the current zoning is residential multiple dwelling second density special SP. We would be looking to rezone the land to keep the property within the same residential multiple second dwelling density zone, but applying a new set of special provisions to that zone based on the fact that the land is no longer going to be used for a hotel, that the lands are now proposed to be used for residential purposes. I should also note for everyone joining the meeting tonight that based on the overall density for the site, there may also be a requirement for an official plan amendment application, simply just to recognize a density that would exceed 150 units per hectare for the subject property. So through our pre-consultation meeting process with the city, which ultimately was the first step of the process, the second step of the process is having this neighborhood meeting. The third step is completing all of the studies that you see on this slide. So all of these reports have been requested by multiple departments throughout the city of Barrie, including external agencies such as the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority. So this is a long list of studies. The intent of the studies is to ensure that there are the questions that are going to be asked this evening can hopefully be answered by the majority of these studies, and that staff have all the technical information that they need to complete their own technical review of the application. So as I mentioned, none of these studies are completed to date, so we won't be able to provide, for example, to you information relating to traffic, or stormwater management or heritage at this particular time. But we would be very interested in hearing comments on those issues so that we could pass that information along to our consultants to ensure that your comments can be addressed through their reports. So that will conclude my presentation. This meeting is really to hear comments from the public. So just a very quick summary. Once again, the application is for a 6-story apartment building. It will include condominium units. It will not be a full rental building, just to make it very clear. That's just some planning terminology that's used. So this is intended to be a condominium building where each of the individual units will be sold. There will be 154 residential units. There will be parking to accommodate 167 parking spaces. And there will be a variety of different amenity spaces for the residents of this new development. The lands are located along Blake Street. And what we are proposing to do with this application is develop further a compact and complete community, which already exists along Blake Street and in the east end of Barrie. So with that, Tyler, I'll turn the meeting back over to you and happy to answer any questions.